One Piece chapter 942. This is a hell of a revelation. Like the whole thing with the smile fruit. I wasn't expecting something like this. I was not expecting for Hiyori to sit there and say that the reason why they're all laughing and the only reason why they can only laugh and they have no other expressions except for smiling is because of the smile fruit that Kaido and Orochi introduced to the public. And the reason why it's so fascinating to me is I thought that the whole thing with the smiling and the laughing, it was just a way to actually endure through the pain. You know, I think I've talked about in the past, I've talked about how like with my therapist, one of the things my therapist was saying was like, man, whenever you get uncomfortable, you always laugh and you smile. And it's more of a deflection whenever you get ready to start talking about something that is uncomfortable for you. And so I thought that's what Oda was going at. I was like, man, Oda's really got a good feel for how people are. And that wasn't the case. Like that was not the case at all. The fact is that I almost called it Komurasaki. Like Hiyori said, this is the byproduct of the smile fruit. So that's interesting because you see this real reaction out of Zoro, how Zoro's just watching as Yasu got executed. And you see Zoro very visibly upset. And he's looking around, he's seeing everybody laughing and smiling, they have tears in their eyes. And, Zoro jumps to the opposite conclusion of me. Again, I thought that they were doing the laughing and smiling to essentially cover up the fact that they're really feeling sorrow. And Zoro's like, what the hell is so funny? And then that's when Komurasaki, obviously with the tears in her eyes, just breaks everything down for him. And what I have to say here is that that's actually pretty damn brutal. Like that is so brutal, dude. Like the fact of the matter is that this man was executed in front of his child. And when you really look at it on a deeper level, he was really executed in front of all of his children because all of those people that were gathered there that had been shaped and affected by all of his actions, their lives were impacted. Him being killed in front of all of them, that's such a devastating moment right there. Like that is heartbreaking. And yet at the same time, when you look at it from a strategic side, it makes a lot of sense because if you're trying to rip the heart out of your enemy, the best way to do it is to demoralize them first. And so I thought that was kind of interesting right there. They talk about the fact that Orochi is a bit of a coward, which I think all of us would agree he's a coward. And yet at the same time, he's actually showing a little bit of brilliance when it comes to being a tactician here. Maybe that was more so because, Yasu is just kind of pushing the buttons on the guy and saying like, yeah, a man, I believe the quote was, a man was so feeble will never get the better of Odin. The fact is, this is what it was, a man of such small caliber shall never in his life truly devour Odin. Like the fact is that when you're doing all of that trolling right there, that's one of those things where it's just like he's pushing the buttons to get a reaction. And really it's actually smart on Yasu's side too, because when you look at it, he not only trolls them, but he also deflects off of everything that he's done up to this point, because he's actually speaking in a coded message to the people that are really part of the rebellion, that know what's going on. And in particular, he's speaking to Kinemon and everybody else. And what I like here is that his death is going to be that unifying factor. I like that Oda kind of had that in there, but it kind of just shows you the brilliance when it comes to trolling, because in a very subtle way, there was a bit of a chess match that was going on here, where when you look at it, it's like, okay, we got Komurasaki, everybody was kind of, waiting to get their rocks off to Hiyori, and then you have it where you're executing somebody like Yasu, but then it backfires because of the fact that so many people were affected by Yasu being there, and Yasu is giving this coded message about how it's not really rebellion, and he's kind of casting a light on it to make Orochi seem like he's a bit of a sniveling coward, which that begins to undo the hold that he actually has on the people of Wano. So I thought that was smart. And that kind of goes back to another thing. When it comes to people talking like sarcasm, when it comes to people trolling, you have to look at it from this perspective. Typically people that can get away with that and get away with it very well, they tend to be very intelligent people once you get the opportunity to talk to them. So I thought that was interesting that Oda kind of slipped all that in there right there. Like I liked the bit of the flashback, and you got one person that is essentially covered up. You don't really have an idea who they are yet. Oda gives you just enough to kind of get the wheels turning. But I like how you see the flashback where Yasu is just giving this speech about how Yasu is saying like, right now you're nobody, and he says that essentially you have to save yourself from your selfish whims. And so I like how there's a little bit of actual teaching going on right there. That's one of those things where you can definitely tell that Oda is setting something up. I think the big thing for this chapter is that the death of Yasu is meant to bring together the few people that were meant to join up with Kiku and with Raizo and Kinemon and Kanjuro. The few people who are meant to actually join, I think that this is going to be what actually pulls them closer to the surface. Between this and between Luffy having the former Yakuza, I think that those two things right there, I think those are probably the things that actually unify everybody around Kinemon's plan right there. And by sowing seeds of dissent very subtly in the ranks of the actual troops, I think that, you know, his death, it wasn't in vain. I think this is actually pretty brilliant right here. You know, I can't really say too much on there, simply on the fact that this is one of those chapters where Oda is so much in the moment that it's not a whole lot to go over, and yet at the same time, when you're reading this, it's one of those chapters where you can very much feel that this is going to be something that's going to be important much later on, maybe further on in this arc, but this is something where you look at it and you can definitely feel the importance of the chapter. And just from the artistic standpoint, you know, no real complaints on that. Oda definitely did his job when it comes to art and, you know, just conveying the emotion on there. Everything was very expressive, much like usual. I mean, overall, this was a good chapter, man. So my chapter question to you guys is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how big of an impact was the death of Yasu in terms of the overall scope for Wano? And you guys can feel free to kind of go through and kind of, you know, have your own conversations, simply for the fact that, you know, while I'm getting caught up on One Piece, I try not to read the comments too much because I don't want to be spoiled. You know, we don't have the same activity that we had over on Kryptonian Saiyan. But what I will say, you know, we don't have the same activity, nowhere near the same activity that we had over on Kryptonian Saiyan. But at the same time, I try to stay away from it because we're almost caught up. And, you know, we've gone on this whole journey spoiler free. And so I want to kind of finish this journey being able to give you guys an honest reaction and an honest review without knowing anything that's getting ready to happen. So bear with me for a little longer, guys. That's all I got to say on that, man. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.